Z, E, grow, O. All right, thank you for being silent, good folks. You should be copying down the essential question if you've not done so already. When I move on to the next slide, you know it's on the whiteboard over there, so you can check it out if you miss it. But the purpose of today's work is to see what you already know about slavery and its aftermath, okay? I don't want to go into our unit like assuming that you guys are what they call like blank slates. You have no knowledge of slavery. Now, for some of us, that might be true. You might not have the largest, library of knowledge about slavery in your heads, but you know something. I'm absolutely positive that you know something about slavery, if not a lot about slavery. So before we go into the nitty-gritty and figure out specifically every stage that I can try to teach you in 8 weeks, I want you guys to acknowledge that you know something already about the institution. Everything we've done up to this point in this year has been preparing us for this unit. Constantly, I want you guys to be able to compare the actual history to the literature that is super, like not even connected to slavery. Animal Farm can be connected to slavery. Lord of the Flies, and when we get to it, Raisin in the Sun, The Giver could be connected. Everything can be connected to slavery, and you're going to be able to tell why. But the biggest thing that you're going to be doing today, good folks, is figuring out questions and trying to understand how you're going to create your own answers or get your own answers. Because as I've been telling you all year, the last big project is upon us. This research paper, we're going to start working on it specifically around the second week of May, but you have to be able to prepare for it because you're going to be doing research. The biggest thing in this world in terms of academics is being able, and not even just academics, creating your own questions and finding your own answers. Question everything so you can understand something, all right? So good folks, my first question to you is an oldie but goodie, because I'm confident that you've seen this quote before, because if I remember right, maybe about 8 weeks ago or so, this was a part of an advisory slideshow. Now, this is only out of my own curiosity. No. Does anyone know who this guy is? Anybody remember his name? Makai. Respect you. All right. That's Marcus Garvey, all right? Now, I'm not going to go into the history of Marcus Garvey right now, but this quote is a very interesting one for me. Who has a loud and proud, like Marcus Garvey was an incredible speaker, right? Incredible speaker. Like, if you're going to read his words, you better sound confident like you know what you're talking about. Brenton. Because Comrade Brenton, right? Read the quote, sir.
A people without the knowledge of their past history, organic in culture, is like a tree without roots.
Excellent. Now, little giggle, but origin, right? Origin. Now, what does this quote mean to you? What does this quote mean to you? In order to get to the meaning, I want to break down a couple of things and be an active listener as you're jotting down some things to respond to. You see that part where it says a tree without roots? What are roots and what do they do for the tree? Taylor.
Roots help the tree grow.
Excellent. Talk slow because you know people got to jot down. They're trying to be active listeners. All right. So roots hold the tree down is what Sister Rankin just said. And I cut her off, so keep going.
So roots help the tree grow. So basically if the tree didn't have roots, it wouldn't grow. So if you don't have knowledge, you won't grow and learn.
I like what she said. What are we jotting down? What are you guys jotting down? Just show me that you be active listeners by telling me something. Alea Barnes. something like that. I think you kind of flipped it around a little bit. Kaya.
She would say like, if the people haven't learned about their culture and anything, you haven't grown with. I think I'm saying the same thing.
James, you guys got the first part.
Unless you saying like without knowledge of your past, you won't be able to grow for the future.
Oh. You guys think that's true?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
How many people by a show of hands think like if you don't know your history or where you come from, that's like a problem?
Yeah.
Okay. How many people say that it's not a problem? Okay, interesting. Why? Let's explain ourselves a little bit. Jonathan.
The only way for you to better yourself in the future, like, let's say I know nothing of my past. Let's say I've never put my hand over the stove and I got burnt, and I see fire, and I put my hand over the stove and I put my hand over the stove and I get burnt. What did I learn? That I hurt. It hurts. So I'm not going to do it again. The only way to not mess up in the future, not to be redundant in mistakes, is to grow and to become better in what, or to accomplish any goals, is to know the past. If you don't know the past, how do you know what you're doing? It's like putting on your left shoe without your right shoe. If you don't know what your left shoe is, you don't know what your right shoe is.
That's called experience. And
The past is experience.
the past, like, this is basically saying if you don't know about history, as in like, well, your history, as in like slavery and all that stuff, if you don't know about it, then you can't grow as a person. I find that untrue in a sense, because obviously you have to know something about like slavery and like all that, because like if you're black, then you have to know that. Like, it's mandatory, because then you won't like know about your history or anything. But like for you to like delve deep into it is like, I find that kind of unnecessary.
All right. Anybody else want to express their opinions on it? Is Brother Garvey correct in saying this? We'll go Brenton.
I feel like no, because some people who don't grow up with their roots, they be fine. Like, they just like go through life, like just like find it like another thing to like get through through the day, and like they just don't care about their roots. They just go on.
Jay.
I want to say, I feel as if I disagree with everybody saying they disagree with this quote, because like, say if I didn't know about slavery, and I'm running around like, oh, back then it was cool, this and all that, and like, yeah, and I didn't know that we, like, black people was counted as half of a person, and we worked for white people, and for us to work. Like, that's not cool for
China.
I think it's fair, like, I believe that everyone should know their roots, because it's like saying, I don't, like, it's like basically in modern time, I don't know my grandmother. That's what it's saying. But it will be fair for everyone to know their roots, because then they will know their ancestors and how, like, you know, like how they are today.
I see you letting me, so I won't hold you. Around the council. He's like holding it.
I feel it's cool because like it's like black people want to protest saying like all Black Lives Matter, but like if they didn't know their past or something like that, it's like they protesting for no reason. So they need to know their past for protest.
Jonathan, then I gotta move on. I know we have a lot of things to say.
Disagree with something that Devontae said. He said that if you, well, I mean, not just Devontae, but the people who disagree with the quote. First, he said that if you're black, you have to know about slavery. You don't have to be black to know about slavery. You can be any race, any color, and you need to know about slavery. You need to know about your history. Also, history and experience are the same thing, because you may have not physically lived it, but you lived it. Because you don't get, in modern society, once you're black, you no longer have a specific ID. You're black. You still do have your person. You still do have a person, but you are whoever somebody 50 years from now was. You still have to represent, or you're still in lock. It's a different form. Like, you haven't physically lived it, but you still need that experience. Because if I come up to you now and I put you, or somebody comes to you and puts you in a situation that degrades you or enslaves you mentally and physically, if you don't know about your past, how are you not to fall into that trap? So to say that it's not important or it's not necessary is like ignorant, well, in my opinion. And you don't need to be. I mean, I think once you're black, you do most definitely need to know about slavery, but that's not the only kind of people who need to.
I hear you. I hear you. Now, I know Devontae wants to respond, but you're gonna have to wait until the exit ticket. So, or jot down something. All right. I want you guys to take a look at this mock test that you're going to be doing. It might seem diesel or it's not that. It's not nearly as bad. So pay attention to the steps I take with us to respond to these questions. You're looking at an example of part 1. This is what you're going to see for part 1, and then this is part 2 of the test. And the thing is that I'm total disclaimer. This test is part of a test that you're going to see next week, Friday, right? And the reason why I'm doing it this way, like right now, it doesn't count for anything aside from knowing or figuring out what you know about slavery already. Our hope is that by the time you see these questions again next Friday, whatever you got today will grow exponentially because your knowledge has grown, and of course, your test scores will grow, okay? The thing about this journey that we're about to walk on is like, I'm not super concerned with like the grades. I want you all to do well and get A's and B's. That goes without saying. What I'm more concerned with is the journey. How do you get your answers? When you see something that you don't know, what questions do you ask to get your answers? So let's take a look at part 1. This part is relatively easy because you have a multiple choice question and then you have to provide some explanation as to why you chose whatever you chose. Pay attention to the steps. The first step we take, of course, is to read. So, Richardson, read for us the question loudly and proudly.
The famous speech that taught slave owners how to get the most out of their slaves through the breaking process was delivered by.
Excellent. Now we have A, Donald Trump. B, Willie Lynch. C, Malcolm X. And D, Frederick Douglass. So let's, by vote, let's see what we think as a class. How many people think it's A, Donald Trump? Raise a hand. How many people think it's B, Willie Lynch? Raise your hand. How many people think it's C, Malcolm X? Raise your hand. How many people think it's D, Frederick Douglass? Raise your hand. All right. So you guys believe it's D, a famous speech that taught slave owners how to get the most out of their slaves through the breaking process, delivered by Frederick Douglass. Now, could somebody who raised their hand for Frederick Douglass explain some of your thinking? Like, if it's a guess, I hope it was an educated guess. Like, why Frederick Douglass? Come on. Somebody, yeah, I saw the majority of hands up for D, so y'all had to be thinking something. Brenton.
Originally, I think Malcolm X because like most of the, like, to be really honest, most of the other people I really didn't know.
All right. So I'm going to assume that might be the same for some other people. So we're going to just write this, even if this isn't your exact reason. This could be our first sentence because the rationale is supposed to be 1 to 2 sentences. I don't know who the other people are. So I picked the person I knew. So a reasonable explanation. All right? You picked the person you knew. Who wants to add something to it? Makai. I know you didn't pick Frederick Douglass. I actually want somebody who picked Frederick Douglass. I'm sorry. Who else picked Frederick Douglass? Why did you pick him? China.
First,
The A is a curse word, so cross that out. B, I don't fully know that person.
Yeah.
I don't know if he delivered that speech. And Malcolm X, I half know, but I believe that since he's black, you know, like he has the roots of like slavery and stuff like that. He could never like deliver that because you don't have, you know, like back then.
Excellent. All right. So good folks, I'm gonna go over part 2 with you guys in your table up groups. But can somebody really quick, before you table up, tell us the steps. What do you have to do for part 1 of this mock test? Alea, give us step 1. Huh? You don't have to ask a question in part 1. You have to do something else to the question. What do you have to do to the question, good folks? Not so many hands at once. Holy moly. Nicole, read. Thank you. And after you've read, what do you do with your table up group? Think about what we did as a whole group. Nate, answer the question, but how are we going to answer the question?
Vote.
With a vote as a table, okay? With a vote as a table. And then, after you do your vote and come up with an answer, what do you have to do? I heard a voice, so I can't, John. Right? A quick rationale, 1 to 2 sentences. All right, good folks, please table up. I'll talk to you guys about part 2 in your group. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll. Hold. Hold. All right, good folks. Please be sure to work as a group. As I said before, I'll be coming around to talk to you all about part 2. Let's see if we can get done in about 15 minutes or so. Everybody where's part 2 right here? Part 2 are the images on it. Okay? And what you need to do is you have to look at the images and figure out what questions you need to ask in order to figure out what's going on. Right? Like, so for example,
I'm just asking,
you see in this first image here, first page, what questions you have to ask in order to figure out what's going on in the image? Or why is the person excellent? Why to write like I'm gonna take my hand. And then to answer that, why you think white people took black people and killed them and burned them? Okay. And cut them black. Okay. What else?
It says delay.
Not working hard.
Now,
That's what you're supposed to do with part 2 when you get to it. All right, you get it? To the best of your ability. So instead of
Look at it, it says which is not discrimination. That's the point, it's not. All these 3 are discrimination. Why you
Would you take,
all of these are discrimination. Because all 3 of those answers they did.
because the movie made that that's the 40 hours.
and Lynch, like Lynch, like the fucking Lynch. Lynch, you got the
the whole point of the struggle why this person didn't be excellent. Now, what would be some potential answers here? Y'all sound like you're taking a test. Y'all should be talking to one another. I know the camera's on, but They all brand new.
Oh, yeah.
Be yourself within reason. All right?
Mario.
Love you too, brother. All right, so you get the section, ask questions, and come up with your own potential answers. All right? Let's see what you guys come up with.
These stabbing and taking their food. That's
Or dehumanization.
Oh, no.
What could be a dehumanization strategy? Like whipping them. Okay. Starving. Okay.
referring them to beasts, animals.
So I guess you gotta think about it this way. You gotta think about when you buy a brand new pair of sneakers, got some fresh white you take it home, you open up a box, and you grab a pen and start going like this all over the why not? Because they brand new. You gotta keep the freshness all fresh and all, right? So the thing with that is you don't break the new stuff you buy, right? So you gotta think about which of those consequences would be like a slave owner shooting themselves in the foot or coloring in brand new white sneakers. Which one would hurt the slave owner and the slave? That would hurt the slave owner. Me punch you in the jaw ain't gonna bring me no pain. Which one hurts the slave owner and the slave?
She said it said I said it was C. Y'all gonna say it wasn't.
But y'all was on the first time.
E. Throw. O. Now, while this side of the room was faster in terms of getting the desk right, shout out to that side of the room for getting the desk right and remaining silent for the most part, with the exception of maybe 4 people on this side. Oh man, just throwing all sorts of shade, brother. Thank you for both sides. One day we'll be able to get both of y'all doing the same exact thing. But we'll start with part 2, right? Because I'm not sure if everybody was able to get to that. Somebody tell me in image 1, what are questions that you may want to ask here? Ooh, Kyle's trying to redeem herself. So I'm going to call on Brenton. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I can't hear you because Kyle's trying to talk to you.
Wrong.
Huh?
What did she do wrong?
Ah, excellent question. What did she do wrong? Yes.
Can I answer Andrew's question?
Sure.
No. Okay. I said why is he making her stand up there? And my answer was they might be biting her off, like bitten.
I said
You said it. You said it right. You said it absolutely right. Does everybody know what it means to bid? To bidding? What does that mean? Look over. Try this out. Excellent. Any other questions that you had out there? Any other questions? Jonathan.
Actually, no, because I mean, I pretty much said what was going on, but yeah.
Okay. All right. How about on the other side? Image 2. What questions did you guys come up with there? Isaiah.
Is this possible form of torture?
Oh, is this a form of torture? All right. Give me another question, Eddie.
Yes, it's a mess.
Oh, that's a question. That's a statement.
Why they got that thing running there?
All right.
I gotta answer
Go ahead, answer something.
because when they try to run away, the white people here.
Oh.
What he
Okay.
said?
All right. He said that when they would try to run away, white people may hear them. Those are his words. China. You see the site.
Why is this created?
Why was this created? What answer do you think?
I think it was to torture black people if they did something like really bad and they just want them to remember it forever.
Brenton.
I would say, like, to answer China's question, it's not torture. It's just all it is a thing like to drag the slave around like when they No, that's not torture. They just bringing them wherever they go. It's
That's
just
reinforcement. That's
No,
reinforcement.
they not torture them. It's just like you hook the rope around the hook and like you drag them around and like bring them wherever you go, like to slave off you or something. That's not torture.
Let the brother finish.
Alright, so let's say a white man, he going to the store and he need a slave to come with him. He gonna put that on him so that they make sure that they don't run while he going to the place. So, what my question was, why did he do this?
Okay, and you answered it for us. This is like being creative, because remember, some of us, we don't know what these images are about. So you got to get creative. You got to put 1 and 2 together to come up with 3. Yeah, 3. Right? James.
Alright, so I got a question for Brent. Alright, so if I put a stop that around your neck and then pull chest around your neck and just pull you around wherever I go, do you think I'm torturing you because I'm putting you against your will? Like you wouldn't have freedom to move around?
Let him answer the question. Go ahead, Brittany.
I mean, in a common sense, yes, but in my mind, I'm saying like, they just want that slave to come with them, so no, it's not torture because that slave, he's a slave. So what are you supposed to do? What do you think he's gonna do when he get a chance? Then you just hold him by the hand. He's not torturing him. He's just bringing him with him.
No, Mr. Brown, we don't pick the one.
Please let Johnny go.
I have to call Devontae because I didn't give him a chance to refute you. All right, go ahead.
Alright, so I kind of understand what Brenton is saying, because like some people put their kids on leashes today. So it's like
Respect. Let him finish.
So it's kind of like that. Like he basically saying like he's not necessarily like whipping them or anything, like physically hurting him. He just dragging him around in different places. So he's
What he said?
My question is, it's just like this book, what we talking about, it's just like this book, I don't know, I forgot what it was called, but the Indians came over and they was in Africa, and they took over the African people, and they took them, and they dragged them around.
Is she talking about?
Yes, and they took them to this little dark place, I don't know what it's called.
I'm going to need you to find out the name of that. Now, I know this is not the best time for debate. You will be able to debate in the future, but I'm running low on time, folks. I know you got plenty of things to say, but there was one of these questions I specifically wanted to go over before we do a quick exit ticket. If you look at it says number 7 right above. Holy moly, can I get to it? It says, why were Africans the ideal candidates for chattel slavery in the United States? Who believes that they have a reasonable answer here, or they picked a reasonable answer? Let's go with Makai. I live here, right? But good folks, I know we got plenty of comments. I promise you, I got Discussion Friday happening, and it's just for times like this. I'm going to shut up, and y'all are going to talk a lot on Friday. Okay? Yay! Brown's gonna shut up. All right. So good folks, what I need you to do is to get into traditional moments so that you can do this quick exit ticket on a separate sheet of paper. All right? Oh. Now, even if you're not finished this mock test, I hope that you keep it in a safe place, because I promise you, I guarantee you that next week you're going to see the same questions, and I'm going to want you to compare your answers next week to the answers you have today, because I'm quite confident that you will be laughing at yourself with some of the answers that you selected, right? And it's good to acknowledge that, oh, I didn't know before, but now I know, wow, that answer I had before was crazy, all right? You're going to grow a lot in these next 2 weeks. But what I need you to do is, based on today's work, what did today's activity tell you about your knowledge of slavery? What do you think about your knowledge of slavery? And why? Take the next 3 minutes to answer that question. A seat in this classroom, right? All the things they couldn't learn, you have an opportunity to learn and show off your knowledge. Use that to inspire yourself. Anytime you feel like, oh man, I don't feel like taking the test. Man, my ancestors died for this. get invigorated in thinking about that, because that's keeping it 100. So, all right, now good folks, I want you guys to go home and interview an adult at home. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, older brother, older sister, older cousin, uncle, I don't care. As long as that person is 21 or over, I want you to ask them some questions here. Now the first part is, you'll do with them exactly what you guys did with your table up groups. Over here, it's part 1, right? Dealing with the images. But then I want you to think about questions for an adult at home about slavery. So like, think about, give us a general question. What's a question that you could ask anyone at home about slavery? What's something that you might be curious about knowing whether or not they know? Nicole. What are their thoughts about slavery? Pull a jack move, jot that down. What are your thoughts about slavery? Those are some potential questions that you can ask your people at home. What else is a question? Let's say I want you to jot down, come up with 8 interview questions. All right, please jot that down. I should have wrote it down for you, but I'm sorry, I was rushing this morning. 8 interview questions. Some honors folks out. On the back here, it got flipped around because of the copy machine, but there's the same exact question that you asked and answered in class. I want you to ask your people at home about these questions, see what their answers are, and what explanations they give you. And then the question that I'm like, this is my own inquiry. Like I just really need to know, all right? What did you, meaning the person you're interviewing, grandma, grandpa, whoever, what did you learn about slavery in school? How did you feel about learning or not learning about it in school? And let me know their response. Like that, I'm super curious about.
They can't write a book?
No, they can't.
Wow.
Look, the easiest journalist I've seen in my life. So you jot down the notes. You jot down the notes. Alright. Folks are quickly trying to hustle me. If this is not done in your handwriting, it's a 0. Okay?
Well, I would just copy it on my own.
So I do all.
I can write from right now.
Shut up.
Alright. Let's not try to hustle me, or hustle yourselves, more importantly. The key to this is I want you guys, I can't teach you everything about slavery in 8 weeks because A, I don't know everything about slavery. I've been studying it all my life and I'm just starting to scratch the surface of understanding. Alright? So in 8 weeks, it is impossible for me to teach you everything about slavery. What's most important is that I teach you how to ask questions and find your own answers if you don't know already. Okay? So you got to be responsible to go find your own answers from the people in your house. And if they don't know, over the course of this unit, it is on you to help educate folks about what you're learning about slavery in this unit.